If you rewatch No Way Home, when like each Spider-Man shows up, like they hold for applause, and I'm like, this isn't the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. When like Jeffrey walks in and says another zinger. This is a movie that cost $685 million because there's 3 Spider-Men in it.
All right, welcome to This Week in Nerd History, the podcast where we talk about all the fun, dumb, nerdy stuff from the past, present, future. I'm Mike. Joining me was, as always, AJ and Sal. How you guys doing?
Great.
Yep.
We're going to spend the majority of this episode talking about the Pee Wee Herman documentary, Paul Reubens, which was fantastic. Not to jump straight into it, but I loved it. And it was super sad as well.
It's sad from the jump because you're like, well, I know that they were making this up until his passing and that he like was making it because he knew he was going to die. I'm like, oh my God.
I know.
Yeah.
So any time if there's any levity, and I'm like, oh no,
I know the ending. Brutal.
Yeah, you're watching Land Before Time. You're like, oh my God, it doesn't matter where they're going. They're all going to get killed by the asteroid.
There's no joy.
The parents were the lucky ones.
Oh, man. And we got some Today in Nerd History news. Sal's going to run us through the latest in the DC Marvel crossover event. Before we get into all that, this week was like kind of crazy. It was a short week, Memorial Day weekend and stuff. So my timing was all thrown off just from like normal Dorkly workflow. And then I had like other deadlines and stuff kind of kicking up. So normally like I try to get next week's Dorkly script done on like Fridays so that there's the weekend and like kind of get stuff prepped so you can jump in and run and start production on Monday. But I was all fucked up because of the holiday weekend. So it was like Monday, and in my brain it was Sunday. So I was already like a day behind, or like at least 2 days behind. I was like, oh shit, I need to write the thing like tonight. So Monday, and this is I'm finishing it. We're recording this on Thursday. We normally finish Dorkly bits on Thursday. They post on Friday. So, I had like a half-baked idea. This is airing. It's already been out on, whatever the days are, whatever. So, so I had the half-baked idea of like Plants vs. Zombies, like a zombie stepping on a landmine, a potato mine in the game. And then it's just the cliche dramatic shit from like any of those movies where it's like one day before retirement or tell my wife and all these kind of things. And that was kind of all that I had. And I was like, yeah, I can make a script out of this. And then like 5 minutes in, I'm like, fuck, this sucks. The script is terrible. And like, it didn't make any sense. It was like 3 different scripts at once. And I pieced together something I thought was like, okay. And then I asked Sal's 2 voices in this one. Sal writes back, he's like, yeah, this episode's weird. I was like, yeah. I rewrote it like 3 times.
It was not a condemnation of your writing. But I was like, this is a weird one.
It was confirmation of my thoughts. I was like, yeah, this is weird. Because it's like 2 different things in one, where it's like starts out with all those tropes, and then the end it's just puns. I was just like, I got a bunch of dumbass potato puns. I'm just going to throw these in here. So I'm like, well, shit. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm like running out of time. I was like this close to texting Nick.
Scrapping it. Like you're like, I can't.
Yeah, exactly. But the problem is there's an ad. We have a sponsor on this week's video, and it's predicated on like a certain type of theme. We try to like theme things for the ad. And this one, the game is Phobies, which is actually going to be in this podcast as well. We have an ad. They're running it on the podcast as well. And it's a fun mobile game. And it's like scary monsters, and there's like a bit of strategy, and you just kind of battle out and stuff like that. So it's like scary, spooky, whatever, and then Plants vs. Zombies, scary, spooky, kind of cute. Like it's a good fit.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I can't scrap it, and I can't really put together a compilation because it wasn't part of the agreement and stuff. There's like paperwork and everything. I'm like, fuck, this sucks. So like, thankfully, like I got all the VO in and stuff. I put together a radio play, and it was just weird, and that's why I like later that night. I emailed Sal again. I'm like, hey, I've got a bunch of pickups here. I kind of figured out, like, once I heard the radio play, I'm like, I know what's missing now. It's missing, like, the outsider view of what's happening with the landmines because it just runs this weird, it's all over the place. So I need commentary on it. Right. And so then it was like the 2 plants, there's 2 plants that are just watching all this happen. And so that allowed it to make it weird. So now I feel good about it. And, like, I'm finishing it tonight. This is all, I had to fucking animate this thing in the course of, like, a day and a half, basically, because of the short week. And like, it took me forever to kind of figure out the game of it all. But that was my week of like fucking rushed weirdness stuff, and thankfully he was able to salvage this thing. I think it'll be all right. I never actually know. I like it now, but who fucking knows?
If you like it, that's good. If you like it after working on it, that's good, because when I used to do sketch comedy, like I would do sketches with Dan, and we would work on stuff for so long that he would just hate it, and he would refuse to watch it, like, ever. And I'd be like, this stuff is my favorite. And he'd be like, I hate that so much. I can't. Especially when he was editing. He would, like, edit something and just, like, be like, by the time he was uploading it, he'd be like, this fucking sucks. I hate it. I don't want it.
Yeah. Well, it's so hard to, like, watch comedy that you made over and over and over again, because, like, when you're coming up with the idea, it's the funniest thing in the world, and then you write it down, like you make it a structure, and that completely deflates any of the comedy from it, because you're like, well, is that funny? Like, and then you start like to think you're overthinking it because you're thinking about what other people might be thinking is funny, and because you've heard it 100 times in your head, it completely diminishes the joke to the point where it's not even funny at all.
Yeah,
and so you completely get to the point where I just don't want to see it ever again, and then people are seeing it for the first time, and they're like, oh my god, this is hilarious, and it's like, no.
No,
that actually hamstrung us. Like when we first started, before we were doing comics, I was like, we're funny, let's do sketch comedy and stuff. And like we never put out a video because we were just constantly trying. We're like, well, that's okay, but like it's not funny enough for people to see, and so you just never get anywhere with it. And I admire the idea of being like, I have an idea, here it is to completion. I don't necessarily think this is going to work, but let's make it and see what happens.
And you never know what you put out there that's going to be somebody's favorite that they're going to quote all the time.
Right? And I want this one to succeed. I'm in it a lot, so like I really want to see this one blow up.
Howdy there, folks. Video James here. Now, how many times has this happened to you? You've been playing your favorite game, Phobias, all night, and then you get up to drink your nightly chocolate milkshake, only to find yourself in a waking nightmare while two phobias battle it out in your living room. I mean, it happens every night. It is a problem. Anyway, Phobias is the turn-based tactics game where your worst fears come to life as collectible, adorably terrifying monsters. Outwit your opponents in 1v1 battles across trap-filled arenas. Collect an army of Phobias as you unlock and upgrade them to overpower your foes. I seriously love this game, and if you like little puzzles and violent little monsters, then you gotta check it out, because this game is just too dang fun to miss out on. So head over to the link in the description and download Phobias today. Hey, just a heads up, guys, I am not sharing my milkshake.
All right, this is Today in Nerd History. It sounds going to run us through some Marvel DC crossover updates.
Yeah. Let me tell you something. For the first time in like 23 years, 22 years, we are getting a Marvel DC crossover. It's actually been the longest time between crossovers ever in the history of them crossing over since 1976. And it's a damn shame. And it has everything to do with like corporate takeovers and stuff like that. But I guess the comic book industry is in such dire straits that we are doing it again. And so we're getting Marvel and DC crossing over characters in two separate one-shots. One-shots are essentially just like, we're only doing one of these, like, a single issue as opposed to like a mini series or an ongoing series. So the crossing over characters, they announced who the main story is going to be about. The concept is that you're going to get two like larger format comics, like longer, with a main story, maybe a littler story, and then some other little stories. Or at least that's the implication based on the creative teams that have been announced. Like there's a ton of names associated with these, and they're not all going to be telling this one story. So we're getting two of these. Marvel and DC each are printing their own. It's Batman versus Deadpool. That's the crossover.
Damn, that's
I know.
Very different.
It's so weird and it's so different. And it's like, it's one of those things where you hear it at first or you see it and you go, really?
Okay.
Yeah, no, I get it. Deadpool is in like $1 billion movie and Batman is Batman. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
And it's something that they never would have done in the last 45 years. Like, they never would have crossed Deadpool with anybody in any large-scale situation, And so, seeing this dichotomy, let's go for it. So, DC was like, we're going to pull out all the stops. And so, they got their superstar artist, Dan Mora, to draw it. And Dan Mora has done some incredible stuff. He's currently working on Superman, and he's done the Batman Superman World's Finest series. He's just fantastic, awesome-looking stuff. And he also worked on an amazing independent series called Once and Future, which is just unbelievable. Pick that up if you haven't already. But it's being written by Grant Morrison, who is just the weirdest pick for this. Grant Morrison had written a ton of Batman in the past and has written one of the most iconic and celebrated Superman comics of all time, All-Star Superman, and also this Deadpool crossover with Batman. Nobody understands why they decided to do this, but the cover is fantastic because it features Batman and Deadpool facing off, and the background is angels, like from God, and they're all either reacting to it or dying. It's just I'm sorry.
Is it a biblical angel with yes. Hundreds of eyes?
No, unfortunately not that accurate. It'd be more exciting if it were that, but they kind of fade into the background. But I'm I don't know what the hell I'm even looking at. It's insane. So that's DC's, and then Marvel went, and we have Batman artist Greg Capullo working with us now, so Greg Capullo's going to draw it, and they picked Zeb Wells to write it. Zeb Wells had made some significant waves lately for writing one of the worst Spider-Man runs of all time, and he's written but he's written a lot of really good stuff too, and he's a Robot Chicken writer, and he's a really funny guy, and he's written a lot of really, really cool, fun, subversive stuff. He's a perfect pick for a Deadpool crossover. I don't know how he'd fare with Batman, but I'm going to find out. And I don't think Spider-Man's anywhere near this, so that'll be great. Yeah, Zeb Wells actually, he's featured in the now viral clip of the Robot Chicken team working with George Lucas on Skywalker Ranch. And he's the guy who suggests that George Lucas created Mara Jade, who is a Legends character. She's a secret apprentice of the Emperor, and eventually she marries Luke Skywalker. And famously or infamously, George Lucas hated this concept of Mara Jade. I don't know why. I don't know where that came from, but George hates this concept of a secret other Jedi that was trained by the Emperor or Luke getting laid. I don't know what his issue was with Mara Jade, but in the context of the clip, Zeb Wells says, as the creator of Mara Jade, and then George just loses it. He's I am not the creator of Mara Jade. I don't want you to get the hell out of my office, and then smacks him and pushes him out the door. It's really funny. It's a really cute clip. It's good stuff. And I've met Zeb Wells, and he's a really nice guy. And it's just a shame that Spider-Man run sucked so bad. But he's not a bad pick. He is a head scratcher of a pick for this, since DC was we're gonna get Grant Morrison out of retirement to write this freaking crossover, and we'll just get Zeb, I guess. I don't know.
So just so DC is doing. Are both sides doing Batman Deadpool crossovers?
Each doing their own Batman Deadpool crossover. Okay.
Yeah.
And so do the stories intertwine?
No.
Or
they're
just going to be
their own
each separate.
Yeah, they're going to be you're going to see what DC can do with a Batman Deadpool crossover, and you see what Marvel can do with a Batman Deadpool crossover. So
they're pinning them against each other. Is it going to be then one's going to be better than the other if they're not?
Well,
right?
It's incentive to get both because you want to see,
you want to see what each of them is going to do, and plus with the creative teams, it's going to be very different kind of crossovers. Mm-hmm. Plus, there were names attached to this thing that are not working on this main story, and I want to see what they're going to do. Kevin Smith is writing a story in here,
all right,
out of nowhere, and a ton of others, and it's oh, cool. What are they going to do? Are we going to get a one-page crossover? Where Spider-Man fights Harley Quinn or something? I don't know. And by the way, it doesn't necessarily have to be a fight, but I will say in both covers, there are batarangs embedded in vital parts of Deadpool's head.
All right.
And Deadpool is a remorseless serial killer, and Batman has a strict no-killing policy, so you can imagine, what a wacky team-up these guys are going to have. But Batman's teamed up with Spawn 3 times, and Spawn is a literal murderer who came back from hell. So, Deadpool will be small potatoes comparatively.
So technically, Batman could just he's not killing Deadpool.
No.
Right? So he could just have at it.
Yeah, no, he could take the gloves off. He could really let Deadpool have it, especially if Deadpool gives him a good reason, which of course he will, because Deadpool is a pain in the ass. So that'll be fun. I mean, I'm excited, and both companies were kind of like, when they announced it just the other day, they were like, "That's the first one." I'm like, "Whoa, first one."
Ooh.
Like, are you saying?
Are they saying the first crossover with these two specifically, or the first? All right, it's been a bunch of years since we did a crossover, and now we're gonna start picking it up.
Yes, I think that it's the latter. It's the idea that
right.
You're gonna see Batman, Deadpool this time, and then next year maybe you'll see something else, another pairing of characters. If I had to guess, it'd be probably Spider-Man and Superman, because that was the first Marvel DC crossover, which isn't technically true. The first Marvel DC crossover was Marvel and DC working together to do a comic book adaptation of the film version of The Wizard of Oz, but we're not here to talk about that.
I love you saying something and then immediately correcting yourself in the same sentence.
Yeah. Well, because
this is the first. Well, it's not the first.
Well, it's not really the first crossover, but the real first crossover is Superman Spider-Man. So it's like it would make sense to see Spider-Man and Superman team up, but in the spirit of this Batman Deadpool thing, where it's like, we're showing you something we never could have done in 40 years. My guess would be the next one would be a similar situation. And because Batman is the biggest at DC, Marvel would probably have to pony up the biggest, which is Spider-Man. And my guess would be it's Spider-Man, Harley Quinn, or Superman. Either way. It would be smart to do Superman because, he's got that movie coming out. But who knows? But I'm excited because, I love the idea of the crossover. I love the spirit of them. I like the, kind of event status of them, the audacity and the collaboration between these two rival companies coming together and being like, let's make something fun together. It's really cute and fun.
Teamwork.
I always love, any kind of crossover kind of thing like that in any genre or movie or IPs and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you think they'll do more of this? I wouldn't want it where it just doesn't become special, So if it's once 2 years, or I don't know.
Yeah, I think
what's a good. What do you think's a good?
I don't know. I think every year would be a smart move, especially if you treat them like this, where it's like here's a main story and then some little crossovers to kind of whet your appetite, or test the waters, see what people would be more excited about, seeing an elaboration on. Because what they did prior, in the 90s, they did the big DC versus Marvel event, which was just a 3 or 4 issue miniseries where the whole universe is all smashed together and they fought each other and then merged and then didn't. And during that period, they did some crossovers, the Superman Fantastic Four crossover or Green Lantern Silver Surfer. And those are just solo, just adventures that showed those two crossovers. This is much more modern comics where it's we're going to do a big one and then double charge you and put some little ones in there. Because at the end of the day, how long would a, Green Arrow Hawkeye crossover really be? We don't need to do a whole 32 or 40 plus page book about that.
Right.
They're just shooting arrows at each other, for God's sake. We don't need to worry about that. But you could do 2 pages or 1 page of a Green Arrow Hawkeye crossover. I don't know what they're going to do. I'm just using that as an example of that makes sense.
When's it supposed to come out?
We're getting the first one in September and then the next one in November, which I'm I remember when they announced it and it was still this year. I was when were they working on this?
In other crossovers and stuff, I imagine they'd try to be get to the good stuff as quickly as possible. Do they waste any time? Really? I was going to say, do they waste any time explaining why they're there?
It's interesting, actually, especially with the Marvel DC crossovers. They had 2 ways around it. And then later on, the 2 ways around it were with the Superman Spider-Man one, they were they live on the same Earth. No portals, no multiverse, just, everything that happened to Spider-Man and everything that happened to Superman all happened, and they just never met until right now. Which is preposterous, but who cares?
Sure.
And it works for me.
I mean, for any 2 people that exist on the same Earth, there's going to be time before they meet each other, and then they have to meet at some point.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
that's the story we're telling.
Right?
When they meet.
Yeah. But they also had to give it like a universal designation. So like Earth 7642 is like the world where Marvel and DC coexist. And they did it in the 70s. Like when they first rolled out with them, it was like Spider-Man, Superman, Teen Titans, X-Men, and Hulk, Batman, presumably because they're both named Bruce. And all three of those, they were like, oh yeah, they're over there. Like, the Teen Titans like, oh, I can't believe we haven't met until just now. Anyway, let's team up and then never do it again. And that's how it worked for a while.
Sometimes you just drift apart. Sometimes it's not a good match,
Yeah, the Batman Spider-Man ones, same deal.
Not every friendship can, especially if you've got a whole team. Yeah, it's hard to get a new, like they have a history. It's hard to get a new person in without being like, you don't get our inside jokes.
Yeah. And they're going to be deep inside baseball since they're technically from another universe.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. That was a very long-winded way of explaining
No, man, I love it.
That's okay. It was great.
The short version is like, hey, Batman and Deadpool are going to team up and cross over, and I hope it looks cool.
Pass.
Pass, Lee.
All right, we got another installment of companies send us stuff to review, and I talk about it for a little bit, and then you guys decide for yourself if you want to buy it. It's that simple. Today I'm going to be reviewing 2 controllers from Gamesir, the Cyclone 2 and the Supernova. Just a reminder, I'm not making a commission on any of these things. This is a pure review, so the links will be in the description. If you're interested, definitely check them out. All right, first up is the Cyclone 2. Actually, the Cyclone 2 that they gave me here feels a little bit lighter than my Xbox controller because the Xbox controller's got batteries while the Cyclone 2 is USB-C. The thing that I really like about the Cyclone 2, it's the buttons are like mechanical and clicky. I'm sure like if I'm playing a game for a long ass time, it's going to be annoying after a while, but I like the clickiness. I like that mechanical feel to it. Even the D-pad has like a nice click and a nice bounce to it too. Standard shoulder buttons. The triggers have Hall effect and you can switch that to micro trigger mode. It's also got a couple additional paddles on the backside that you can program. I think that's pretty standard across third-party controllers nowadays though. It comes with a 2.4 gigahertz dongle and a USB-A to USB-C cable. It also comes with a charging stand, or mine did anyway. I think if you want to get it, it's like $6 extra. And it works on Switch, PC, Android, and iOS. The price, it's listed on Gamesir's site for $50, and from what I've seen recently, that's about $10 cheaper at least than a standard Xbox controller. So if you're looking for a less expensive alternative, nothing too fancy, the Cyclone 2 is a really solid choice, and I couldn't really find a downside to it. Next up, we got the Supernova, which is also listed at $50, which is pretty crazy considering it's got like some extra bells and whistles. The compatibility and the connectivity is the same as the Cyclone 2. It's got Hall effect on the triggers and the sticks, and the triggers here have these little switches on the back which allow you to switch from hair trigger to like longer analog trigger mode. It's got the programmable paddles on the back. It's also got interchangeable faceplates just connected with little magnets. It's really easy to swap in and out. They gave me an extra one here. It's got like this sort of gold gradient to it. I like the blue one here is pretty sweet. Or just leave the faceplate off. It can look like C-3PO when Anakin was first building them. It's pretty nice. It's also got some RGB lighting. The charging dock is pretty sweet too. If you when you place it on there, designed really nice. The RGB kind of just lines up with it from the charging dock to the controller itself. The buttons aren't as clicky as a Cyclone 2. They feel more like standard buttons, and the D-pad is nice and quiet too. It's all really solid. Me personally, I just like those. I like that mechanical clicky button. The Supernova feels a little bit heavier than the Cyclone 2, but not by a whole lot. Either way, they both feel lighter than the Xbox wireless controller that I have because that thing's got batteries in it still for some reason, which just seems crazy. I mean, all in all, I think these are both really solid choices. Thanks again to Gamesir for sending these over. If you're looking for like just to get a controller to just jump in and play right away, the Cyclone 2 is a really solid choice. If you want the more bells and whistles, to be a bit more like, so you can customize it a little bit more, the Supernova is probably a good choice there too. I mean, they're especially at $50, like you really can't go wrong with either one. Links in the description. Check them out if you'd like to. I hope this helped, and let's get back to the important stuff. Talking about Pee Wee Herman. All right, this is Yesterday in Nerd History, and we watched what was the name of the documentary?
Pee Wee as himself.
Thank you. Pee Wee as himself is on
HBO Max.
It is HBO Max?
It is HBO Max now.
They haven't changed it yet. All my stuff still says Max,
yeah, right?
But it is HBO Max, right?
It's
right?
something. I got to open it. I told my TV to open HBO Max, and it got very confused, and it like short circuited. So I was like, "Open Max."
Yeah, we know that your remote and you have a very
we have a very contentious relationship.
Yeah,
we are very angry with each other. My remote be giving me shit all day.
It premiered last week, right?
Yeah,
last week
on the 23rd.
Yep. 2-part thing. It was long too. I was like,
an hour 40 for each part.
Yeah,
holy crap, yeah.
I was even like, they said in in the very beginning they did 40 hours of interviews with him. I was like, I would watch give me more.
40-hour
I will watch 8 episodes at an hour and 40 each.
Yeah,
no problem.
I know,
or more. I want to. There's so much archival footage that's so cool. I will watch all of that. Show me every single weird little video that he was in. I want to see them all. The part where I'm like jumping in so hard, but the part where they just show him as Jesus, and Dan and I both like gasp, and I go, he's a really good Jesus. And then he turns to camera and just says, hello. And we both just died laughing.
Hello.
I know.
I will watch that entire thing. Please put it all out there. Please, HBO Max, if anyone sees this that's remotely related
or involved,
please give us all the footage. I want to watch all the things.
Yeah, any of the footage that they showed, like the older stuff, it felt like in any documentary, especially just for this one particularly, was like a real origin story of like a character of like, because he's such like a complex, weird, creative, super creative person in all the, and Pee-wee and different characters and stuff that he would play. So it's like seeing all these little bits and pieces like, oh, all right, that's where like you can see where that's coming from or what that influence. Like I noted in like 15 minutes in when they moved to Florida and like they had lunch at the Dad Made That Friend and with like the monkeys came out. I'm like, all right, yeah, that makes sense. I can see it's a very weird
this is
situation,
part of
and that's like his life as
shaping
a kid.
his
shaping him. Yeah,
view on the world.
Yeah,
very much. I didn't expect like him to just be like straight to camera like I was born, and that like I didn't expect it to go back that far. But I was so happy for that journey to go through his childhood and all of the little weird things that shaped him.
Yeah.
I was surprised like because I knew when he was just going through like Cal Arts and just the other people that were like in his acting troupe and then like being in the Groundlings and stuff like that. But I didn't quite realize how much Phil Hartman was involved in like the
in Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Yeah, in Pee-wee's Playhouse, right? Of course, and
writing Big Adventure, right?
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, that's
Yeah, I had no idea either.
Yeah, I was after the documentary, I found the original HBO special of Pee-wee's Playhouse, like on HBO. It was like an hour-long thing.
Nice,
and it didn't fully, I know we were talking about it last week, like watching like the Broadway version of it. And I was like, oh, this is all so familiar. And then watching that HBO one, I was like, oh, that's why it's so, like, it was just like buried in my memory. I'm like, oh, I watched this like a billion fucking times as a kid. And for whatever, I just didn't make the connection that like, that's where I remember all that stuff from was the original HBO special. Cause they would play that a lot. And I was like watching the first half hour of it today. And I was like, this is a crazy, like, flashback for me. It was so wild. Oh, just like the little things that he would do, like just coming out with like his toys and he'd just play for a second and like throw them aside and like another thing. Like there's no real joke there, but it's just his character and like his energy and stuff. It was just so uniquely
I love when he says,
infectious.
"Oh, real mature." For some reason, like that's like as soon as he said it, I was like, yes, that feels like that's such a Pee-wee-ism that he would just say that to everybody. Oh, real mature.
Oh, real mature.
I know.
And we used to say that to each other as kids.
Yes,
because of him.
I love like the jealous, sassy Pee-wee too. Like I always kind of forget that personality of him where he's just like out of nowhere, he just like, gives somebody like the stink eye and then like he's like vengeful in a weird way or like all these kind of weird things, like competitive for just weird reasons.
Well, because he's a child. Like the idea of like him developing Pee-wee as like a kid in a man's body, it also may explain why my parents were very much like, don't watch this guy. Like you shouldn't, like, this is all fun and games, but like when you encounter a person like this in real life, you don't get in the van.
Don't get in the van.
But Pee-wee, there's like an innocence to him that like I really, as a kid gravitated towards. That was clearly just like looking for kinship and like seeing the innocence in Reubens and his whole like development of the character is just is enchanting. It's it's funny because all I'm thinking about is like I don't know why I'm comparing it to like Mr. Rogers, this other like childhood like force.
I was feeling that too. A lot of times like when they showed the male woman they start talking about how she said that when she was growing up there was no representation of someone like her, and now she gets to be this representation of a black woman for other kids. And I was like, that's very much like I was immediately thought of Mr. Rogers and how he like had this episode where he brought in a little wading pool and he shared the wading pool with I don't remember if it was also a mailman. It could have been, but it was a black like neighbor or somebody, and he just shared the pool with them, and that was something that was so like you don't do that in public, but he just did it because he was like, we're humans and we should be friends, and it was so beautiful. And the way that Pee-wee said he wanted to do this thing where he could show people being different and showing that it's okay to have friends that are a little different and quirky, and I like that.
Yeah, I was surprised they didn't specifically mention Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood like during that part, because I was like, oh yeah, that's like that was the first thing I thought of too. Was just like that was new and like or rare, I would say, on TV. Very rare for like a kid show to have that just be inclusive and be representative of somebody who is just not white people.
Right.
And I thought that was great too, and just the way that because when Paul said it, it was like. Not calling attention to it. They just did it.
Yeah.
And it was just like, this is normal, or like when they showed like the cartoon and it was just in Spanish and like, they're just like, we're not putting subtitles on it. It's just, this is like, it's fine. You don't need it.
You can, And because kids can watch cartoons when they're young and not understand everything that's happening, and you can still follow the story. And it's the same with a Spanish cartoon. You can watch a Spanish cartoon and not know what they're saying and get the gist of the story.
Totally.
And it was just beautiful on top of that.
Yeah, there's so many great things. Like the part, the thing that stood out to me, like when they were developing the show, even just like it's what seemed to be just like overnight when they had like the midnight show at CalArts. I know it was longer than that, but like all the right people coming in at the right time and like artists that he liked a lot, and it all just kind of like worked together. Him, Phil Hartman, and like the artists and stuff like that. But when they were doing that to develop the show, Pee-wee's Playhouse, it felt like that same sort of, like he got that same crew together and they were just like developing all this stuff and just making it like as artistic and weird, and it just all fit together. Like I always try to just like think about what a modern version of that for a comparison would be, and like I don't quite know. I couldn't quite think of anything off the top of my head, but I don't know. I feel like it's just very rare for something like that to exist. And the other part that stood out to me too, just part of that, was how he said like we got like 5 network notes over the course of that whole series. Like that part
unbelievable.
is
huge. That's it. That's so cool.
Right.
It's just emblematic, I think, of the time, like where it's not like, I mean, for so many people of today's world, the 80s would have been a really restrictive time, and as we saw, like they were for him as well. And for a variety of reasons, but like it was also an opportunity for like huge creative growth. And because there was such a limitation on the distribution method for entertainment, like you could either watch it or not. Those are your options, So it's like Pee-wee, and I think like Reubens understood that, where he's like, let's normalize, any element of
a man in high heels.
I know, that's so great.
I love that part.
Yeah.
He's just dancing back and forth in heels. Because why not?
I know.
Because he's a little kid, and little kids do that. My kids do it all the time.
Little kids
they dance in my shoes.
Exactly. They explore and they have this like lack of inhibitions, and the kids take cues from adults, and if you see an adult behaving like a kid, it'll make the kid feel less inhibited as well. But like just the fact that, there is no modern day equivalent of anything that he was doing, particularly Pee-wee, because everything has been like bubbled off, and there is no like general platform for everyone to sit down and watch it. And make their own judgment call. It's just like, it has to be subject. Like anything that you want someone to watch, you have to get them to watch it. You can't just take for granted that it's on.
Yeah.
You know?
Right.
No one's going to catch the latest episode or movie or anything.
You have to tell people.
Ever again.
Yeah.
We literally, Dan and I are both have you watched the rehearsal to anyone? We're like, we want to talk about it with somebody. And they're like, nah. And we're like, please watch it.
Like what of the 700 streaming programs is it on?
Yeah.
You know, even to the point where I remember when the Broadway thing hit on, during COVID, and I was like, not enough people are going to see this because it's only on this one thing. But yeah,
I agree.
It's so awesome that he was like, it's nice to get this kind of behind the curtain because he was so closed
private.
Off.
Yes.
From the rest of and it might have also, it might have hurt only in as much as people saw Pee-wee. That's it. They don't have no context for what Pee-wee is outside of they made a movie one time. So you don't know what his game is. What are you doing? But who understood that was us. Watching. You're we'd watch him and go he's on the up and up, and I can only speak from my own experience, but I know my parents were like, no, this is not okay for you to watch. But I watched it anyway in spite of them, and it was and it has a long lasting effect on me. Where not that I do or act like any of those things, but I have a freeness.
Yeah,
that I know
the
was
creativity of it.
Way.
Even the opening sequence of Pee-wee's Playhouse is so fun and different from anything else that I was seeing at a young age, where it's just little bit there's so much that you could watch it 20 times and see new things every time because there's so many tiny details.
Well, and everything was so carefully curated for merchandising, for some kind of corporate machine, and Pee-wee was so different. They made toys and action figures and stickers and everything like that. It's the 80s. You're gonna do that. But it's just you could I can't believe there were so few notes. And I guess it's just from a place of where do I start?
You can't put pencils in a potato. Well, why not?
Why not?
Okay, go ahead.
I guess that's a good point. Yeah,
that's a great point.
Yeah. Well,
why not?
Just from the Pee-wee persona, where do you is it the spats that are the problem? Is it the bow tie that's the problem? Is it the rouge? You can't pick it apart. Also, I love how Pee-wee's Playhouse at least represented everything that was creatively exciting and cemented in that time. He did puppetry, he did claymation, he did animation, he did
green screen stuff,
live action, green screen. Yeah.
So much fun stuff in there. He was hand puppet.
Oh my god! Yeah,
I know. When I was watching it last night and Penny came up, I was just at my desk watching. I go, Penny! It was involuntary. I was like, oh my god! I totally forgot about Penny.
Yeah.
I was like, holy shit.
I remember seeing little, I feel from whatever I was watching, I remember watching Pee-wee's Playhouse, but I also feel I just saw Penny as a separate entity being cut out and put as an interstitial between other things that I was watching. That they would just be okay, and here's a Penny. Right. Why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Going back to the opening sequence too, I love that when they were just talking about that. It was only for a little bit with the stop motion and just how unique it was, but just his approach to it, where the music and everything, it was so inviting. It was just this sort of feeling come on, let's come on in. It's just a different. You're being transported away into this different world, into Pee-wee's
the
world.
The rainforest-esque music with the little tiki.
Yes.
It's
very
so
inviting,
fun.
Very totally different from any of the Saturday morning cartoon zany stuff. It gets fucking crazy when you're in there, but just that opening sequence, I'm just you're just sort of you kind of stop what you're doing and you're just getting pulled into it, and then you're in it and it's crazy. I loved it. Yeah, so
absolutely.
Great.
Yeah,
I know.
Ugh.
So good. And then outside of this show itself, getting into obviously all his arrest and everything after the show ended. And then I didn't even it's such a shitty thing, the whole the FBI raid and all that kind of stuff, and the pornography or whatever. Just it just seemed like a hit job or whatever of just super uptight people just getting into his business.
Right.
But I didn't really even I don't know if it didn't dawn on me or whatever, but that whole like news part of it, I was like, I don't even quite remember this happening. I remember the movie theater
I
stuff.
think especially because, if we were younger then, it wasn't on the radar, I remember hearing like one thing, and I don't even think like my mom wasn't ever watching the news, so like I never heard any of the news stories. It was like somebody in school was like, "Oh, did you hear Pee-wee's a pervert or something?" And I'm like, "What? Yeah. I don't know." And it's just like in passing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the only exposure I had to it was like word of mouth from my peers, like just clearly parroting what their parents said.
Yeah,
or getting the word, like. We're not watching that no more.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, that's over.
He was canceled.
Yeah.
He was literally canceled.
I know.
Yeah. And it's just like, they pulled the plug. Like, everyone was like, he's a pervert. And it's like, you know, in a pre-internet period, like, all you have are the news reports. And even then, like, the news cycle is, like, it's not, like, as immediate as it is now, but it certainly was like, we're not going to harp on this. He's a pervert. It's done. There's a mugshot. We're out of it.
Yeah.
And, for so many people, like, that was the end of Pee-wee until it just wasn't anymore. Like, Pee-wee would come back after you were an adult. It's like, your own innocence was taken, and then when you became an adult and were looking for it again, Pee-wee returned.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was, but for him, it was just the rest of his life, and it's like, that's tragic, and it really sucks.
Yeah.
I do love the MTV of it all, where like MTV brought him in and they like had him come out. You could tell like there was this kind of like duality to it. Like, it worked for us and it worked for Pee-wee, but also you feel like, well, let's get him on. You don't know what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, him owning it and being like, I heard new jokes lately. It was so funny. I forgot to laugh. I'm like, that's such a Pee-wee thing to say. And also like, yeah, nice. Nailed it.
There's something that I saw online on like Instagram, and it was like 2 days after this Pee-wee as himself dropped. It was somebody who was a neighbor of his that said that when they like moved somewhere, I'm gonna like butcher this completely because my memory is for shit, but it was something about like, Paul was like a friend of theirs and said like, I'm gonna create like a cutting from one of his trees, and he like watered this like little tiny stick until it like grew, and then he gave it to them and helped plant it on their property, and like it's still there and it's like growing and it's flourishing. And it's just like a nice little thing of like, oh, here's a person who knew him personally sharing a nice little story about him, and it like really gives, and it like I feel like now having watched the special, it fits in with this persona that they've painted of like this person who's like nurturing and likes to help things grow and be in nature.
Yeah. There was a nice little thing too when it was just kind of a quick thing about the sending the birthday gifts that he does like every hour. So he has like a list of birthday things. And there was like Conan had talked about.
They're pronounced.
Oh God, I was like, I was hoping he would at least look to the camera when he said that. I was like, please acknowledge that you call it that. But I remember on one of Conan's episodes of his podcast, it was probably either talking about Paul, maybe shortly after he passed, how Conan would get those texts from him on his birthday. Like he sends like a GIF like every hour if it's your birthday. And he had like 12 birthdays. I'm like, he's got to have like, he knows a ton of people.
I mean, just the concept of Pee-wee and how he embodied it, and he was like, Pee-wee is this, Pee-wee doesn't do this. Like, it's just like, don't show Pee-wee doing this. It's just like, I don't know. It takes a special mind to pull any of that off, and he deserved any and all accolades for having nailed it. and made it something that like we were like excited about.
That was great though. It was super sad, obviously.
Yes.
And throughout. I mean,
I was tearing up multiple times throughout, and like the big takeaway for me is, holy shit, I need to be watching Pee-wee's Playhouse with my kids because what a great show, and yes, I want to watch it all over again.
Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I completely agree.
I know.
It was one of those things where I'm like, I was actually surprised by how much I saw, despite how under the radar I had to be to watch it. I was like, okay. A lot of this is coming back. Yeah.
I know. I wouldn't mind rewatching too, just for like the jokes that were designed to go over a kid's head. Or barely. Because when they were watching it as a kid, I was like, that means something else, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah. And the way he says, if you get the joke, it's either because of something that your parents taught you or from the streets.
Yes.
There's that small clip. I think it was from I know you'd mentioned Sal before. I hadn't really seen it, the Christmas special.
Yeah.
I definitely want to watch that now.
Now,
oh my God. Yeah, the fruitcake is a running gag throughout the whole thing.
I love this.
It's such a lame joke. But they keep
so
it going.
Fun.
Yeah. Oh, a fruitcake. They build a whole wing of the house with it. Yeah, it's... Oh, man.
That was my terrible impression of a Pee-wee laugh. I can't do it.
The, newish Easter egg that came out that I was like, oh, it was that Cyndi Lauper sung the lyrics to the thing.
Which, I have ears, I know.
Yeah, right? I know. I was like, I just assumed I never read the credits or anything. It didn't say her. It said
it's not her. They couldn't, she couldn't do it. Or she had to break with the label in order to do it, so she just did it under a pseudonym.
Yeah.
But she did it as a favor. It was so funny, if you, the special is 88, it's the show has already been firmly established, and it's over after that, and so it's but the talent they got for that Christmas special.
I know, oh my God.
Is just and you could tell that they're there because they want to be there,
because they love him.
Right? They're
because
Cher isn't in. There's 20 minutes of these are the people in the special, and Cher isn't in them, and then Cher just shows the hell up. And I want to believe it's because Cher showed up while they were filming.
Well, he said that she didn't bill him, and she said, I'm not billing you for this.
Yeah.
That's if that's not the biggest compliment to Pee-wee that you could give, Cher is yes, I'm showing up free of charge.
Yeah,
and
that's so awesome. And also, that wasn't. It's not like Cher dropping it on this podcast today. This is Cher in '88. This is Moonstruck Cher.
Yeah.
This is top of her game Cher.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And might not be a wig Cher.
Yeah,
it was definitely a wig, but still, it was awesome.
They're all wigs.
Yeah, I never really squared the circle of the movie versus the show. I was a show purist, so when I saw the movie later, I was like, what the hell is this? Where's the playhouse? When he was going to get the bike, I'm like, I know what the bike looks like. That is not the bike.
I had it in my brain that if it wasn't, before watching this, I was like, oh, the show came out first.
Yeah.
And then the movie, and I was like, oh no. It was the movie. I was like, holy crap. I would have under oath, I would have sworn that it was the show first.
Well, technically,
me too.
The live show was the precursor to the TV show.
That's probably why.
And was well informed of everything that they wanted it to be before the movie was created, and then the TV show was just everywhere. It also would have been if the movie came out, I don't remember what year it was, but if you weren't seeing it in theaters, then you weren't seeing it until many years later when you had it on VHS or something, or it's being shown on reruns. So you're probably watching the show before the movie as a kid. At least I think I was, but I watched the movie a lot. Yep. I was terrified of Large Marge. Love so much of the scene with the clown where he's locking up the clown. I'm every time he goes up to the clown, I'm terrified, and I'm already know what's coming and start sweating because I don't want to see the clown's face turn.
I know. I don't think I've ever stopped saying paging Mr. Herman. I always will say that, no matter what.
Yeah.
Any kind of remotely, any sort of hotel situation, whatever, it's just in my brain. I just have to say it.
Mr. Herman.
Very unique, creative individual. I'm glad that we all got to grow up experiencing that dude.
Yeah.
And
HBO, please release all of his weird little movies. Release them all, please. Or whoever's in charge of his estate, put those things out. If you have make a subscription service, I'll subscribe.
Yeah.
Just to see a new Pee-wee movie. Oh, or not Pee-wee, a new Paul Reubens, artistic endeavor a month. I would totally pay for that.
Don't encourage more.
Put it on
YouTube,
please.
Yeah.
What?
Don't encourage more streaming services.
Yeah.
Just make a YouTube channel. Put them up on there.
That works. There we go.
Do it.
That's the solution.
All right, that's it for this week, guys. Go watch Pee-wee. What is it called? God damn it.
Oh,
Pee-wee as himself.
Pee-wee Herman as himself.
Pee-wee as himself.
So, you guys got anything you want to plug coming up?
If you like this, you might like my channel, youtube.com/comicpop. Check it out.
Yeah. We're going to talk about Ghostbusters next week. If you have any Ghostbusters questions or I don't know, is that a thing? If you have any tidbits, questions,
AJ's
comments,
or I will
concerns,
answer them for you.
Yeah,
exactly.
Seriously, if any two people can answer questions about Ghostbusters,
so try to outsmart these two. We're gonna have AJ's husband Dan will be on, special guest, and
yeah, we should do. That'll be the game. It'll be a head to head. It'll be a ghost head.
Oh, should I do that? I'll be the. I'll do that. I'll put something together.
Yeah, put some questions in the comments. Do it now.
Do it. Come on.
What questions do you have about Ghostbusters?
All right, sweet.
Come on.
All right. So I'm not plugging anything. Screw that.
There's a hilarious Plants vs. Zombies Dorkly bit on this channel that you should definitely
check it out.
I'm assuming it's
brand
funny.
new.
I'm assuming it's bad. I've never seen it.
I don't know. We'll see. I'm liking it. I've watched it. I'll be done tonight with it Thursday night. And hopefully you guys like it.
We like you. We hope you like us.
Yeah, it's so great to see how far-reaching Dorkly is. Like, it's so not my wheelhouse. Like, when we do something, it's like we're pinpointing this very, very narrow niche of a niche of a niche. and then someone that hates me will watch a cartoon that'll laugh when my voice is in it, and I'm like, gotcha, motherfucker.